Welcome to Stunt Stories. I'm Corey Eubanks. And today I have one of my dearest friends, Mr. Tim Mikulecky. Tim, thank you for being on Stunt Stories.
Oh, thanks for having me, Corey. I'm nervous as all get out,
You have nothing to be nervous about. I'm just glad I was able to get you because, man, you work all the time.
Does it seem like that, or is it just social media?
Well, it could be a mixture of both. I'm not sure.
Because I never know what to do. I got yelled at one time by an actress friend of mine that said you need to update all your stuff so people know you're working because they don't want to work or hire anyone that hasn't been working.
Oh, really?
Well, this was years ago, but she looked at my IMDb and she's like, I know you work a lot, but you only got 30 credits.
No, you don't.
IMDb.
You have 204.
Oh.
I'm looking at it right now. You have 204 stunt credits.
Wow. Well, I took her advice and I've been doing I think I've been doing very good at updating once a year for the last 5 or 6 years and checking when residual checks come in and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and I do use my IMDb as my resume now when producers ask for it, But.
Let me ask you this. How did you end up choosing being a professional stuntman? How did you get into the industry? What made you want to be a stuntman?
Well, the long story without making it long, I guess would be, I started doing live water ski shows when I was 11 years old with a club. And then at one of the tournaments, SeaWorld showed up having a tent. You know how when you go to these tournaments, all these vendors show up with tents to sell their product?
Yes, yeah.
And SeaWorld was there, and I filled out a skill set. And they asked me to come down and try out and ski with them one winter, and I did. And then I got hired by them. I only ever wanted to be a professional water skier. And then at 18, I was a professional water skier skiing for SeaWorld.
Now, when you say a professional water skier, what do you do? Is that, I'm envisioning going through the slaloms and off jumps. Is that what it entails?
Well, so that back in the 80s and 90s, and still today, is the 3-event skiing where they do have sponsors. I guess in layman's terms, as an athlete, I always thought when you're getting paid for your athletic ability, you're now a professional athlete in that sport, right?
Yeah.
So when I started to get paid $7.20 an hour to ski for SeaWorld, I became a professional water skier.
You were filthy rich, huh? $7.50.
Yes, yeah. Minimum wage back then was $3.35, so it was almost twice my pay.
You were killing it.
I was killing it, dude. And then as things go on, you get paid for, you get your overtime pay. And then I skied for a company where they paid you based on the tricks you could do. So if you could front flip off a ramp, you got $85 more a week. If you could gainer a front flip off of on an air chair or a sky ski, you got $65 more a week. If you could do 10 different lifts with a girl on your shoulders, besides the 3 basics that you needed to do to get hired, you got another $45. So there was always an incentive to learn more because then you got paid more. And that was actually kind of cool.
Now, these things you just mentioned, are those all skills that you had that you could do all of those flips and jumps?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I know I
Tim,
can hit a jump ramp.
No one's going to know. You could just say, yeah, Corey.
Yeah, I can do it all. I can do it all.
Yeah. Every single thing I mentioned, I could do. I was the best, actually. I could do all of those. No one's going to know.
Who's going to know? It's like that TikTok meme. No one's going to know. Who's going to know? Honestly, no. I can still barefoot. I can still throw a gainer and a front flip on a sky ski. I have not thrown a front flip off of a jump ramp in 15, 17 years.
Wow. Well,
go ahead.
As I say, if it makes you feel any better, I haven't thrown a front flip off of a jump ramp much longer than you. Ever, actually. I've never.
Yeah. So no, I couldn't. Although my mind says I could work at it enough, and I could, but no. I mean, the reality, I think now I'm at that point where my arrogance is a lot less because I'm smarter now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know, we're ignorantly arrogant as a kid, not knowing that we're arrogant because we're hanging with our buddies and everyone's talented and doing their stuff. But now I'm kind of like, no, sorry, I can't do that anymore. And it's just so much easier to be, I don't know, I don't want to say truthful. It's just so much easier to accept it and say it than, Corey, give me a week. I can do that front flip for you. No, I'll take the job.
Yeah.
and then come and be totally disappointing for you.
Yeah. It's easier to say, get somebody else.
It is. Or I'm sorry, I'm busy. I'm working that day.
Hey, throughout your career, which has been for quite a while now, has there been a particular actor that you have performed stunts for, like you become his double, or do you just kind of bounce around to different actors?
I bounce around. The one guy that really took care of me for 9 seasons was Carmine Giovinazzo, and he was the number 3 on CSI New York. And Norman Howell called me out of the blue one day. I had never hustled him. I never answered my house phone, and I answered my house phone this particular day. And he's like, Tim Mikulecky, Norman Howell. And I'm all excited. I'm like, yeah, because I got this show, and you look like you'd be a good match. I want you to come down here. We're going to put a fight together. I want to see how your fight skills are. And I went down, and bam, 9 seasons later and X amount of episodes later, he took me with him a couple places. But what's important about Carmine is when he did a movie in the off season that he actually was a producer or funder of, he asked Norman to coordinate it. And Norman, he couldn't. He was busy. And he asked Norman, he said, hey, could Timmy do it? And Norman said, absolutely, Timmy can do it. He's your guy. He can handle that.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
So that was like my first, I was playing around, but that was my first like feature. And the producers I met on that show and the first AD, just people, that began my network of stunt coordinating. And I ended up doing like 17 films over 10 years with these producers. And the first ADs and directors I met through all those films wanted me to, referred me and wanted me on their next project. And that gentleman, he doesn't even know this. It'd be great if he heard this podcast, but Norman Howell and that gentleman really sparked or ramped up the connections I made to fulfill a career or make that transition into stunt coordinating from stuntman, stunt double.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ben Scott has been unbelievable with me over the 20 years that I've known him, and I don't want to take anything away from any coordinator that ever hired me, but like if I were to say, what was the epicenter that started the coordinating process? It was Carmine Giovinazzo, CSI New York, and Norman Howell.
Norman's a great guy. So,
yeah, Storm and Norman.
Storm and Norman. I met him on the A-Team. He used to double one of the guys. God. Remember the TV show, The A-Team with Mr. T?
Are you kidding me? You couldn't pull me away from the TV when I was a kid from that show.
Yeah, that's where I met Norman. He was something else, man. I was like, just in awe. He was such a stud and just so talented and, just like Hollywood stuntman written all over his face.
Yeah.
Just great. So you also do motorcycle. You're very well rounded. There's a lot of up and coming stunt guys I've noticed now are just kind of specialty in one thing or the other. You seem to be a little bit more old school where you can do multiple things from cars to rappelling to motorcycles,
sure.
Skis.
Yeah.
What are
like you?
No.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
No,
right?
I try to fake it. I try to fake it and start as, I could do that and try to figure it out.
Well, I mean, I still think I know you've been in the business way longer, and I'm not making fun of your age. I'm being respectful. I mean, I've been in LA pursuing this for 27 years now. And if it's one thing that I'm still, I don't even know if the word's insecure. I mean, you're a good friend, so you will be able to tell me, but I do stay I'm very careful of knowing people or assuming what I'm good at. Like for instance, you say motorcycles, and I'm like, I'm not a motorcycle guy. I love going out on the track on my dirt bike with my son, which is the only reason I ever went on the track in the first place. And I love riding my street bike with my friends. But knowing the talent that we have in the industry of guys who are bike guys, I'm not one of those guys. But am I well-rounded enough to where I can probably do 70 or 80% of the normal stuff we do on bikes as a stunt guy? I think probably, but I'm not the guy that's called to put in a hot seat. For
you're not going to do
not,
the 90-foot jump over the vehicle.
No. Exactly. And even our friends who are our age probably won't do that anymore because they've done it so much. You know?
Yeah, that's so true.
The Clay Collins and the Oakley Lamans and those guys who could do it in their sleep, because of just the professional wear and tear we get on doing stuff like that. I would hope that they wouldn't take that anymore. But yet, those two guys would be the first guys I call and offer the job to if I had a gag like that on a show I was running.
Yeah. Hey, what would you say throughout your career? What was the most dangerous stunt? You always get asked that when people find out you're a stuntman.
Yeah.
What's the most dangerous stunt that Tim Mikulecky ever performed?
You want to know what I always say, and it's just a joke, but it's true?
Yeah.
Do you know? You want to guess what it is I say?
Gosh, I hope it's not something where I did it to you.
There's my alarm going off.
No, what is it? I give up.
So the most dangerous thing I've ever done was move to LA and decide to become a stuntman.
I meant the most dangerous stunt you ever did, like on film.
Gosh. I know what you meant, but like that's my knee-jerk reaction. But I guess, there's three categories, I think. I think fire, high falls, and car wrecks are dangerous, or can be dangerous if not prepared properly.
Right.
I've been fortunate to have worked with and set up by nothing but the best when those gags came my way. So I don't think that they were dangerous. But I think car hits and stair falls could be dangerous.
Oh my gosh, car hits. If somebody called me for a car hit, it's just a big flat no.
Right, yeah.
Back in my 20s, yes, give me a car hit. Nowadays, forget it.
Yeah.
No,
and
sir.
I've driven for car hits, but Corey, guess what? I've never done a full-blown car hit. I've gone up onto the hood and then spat off the front. Spat, is that the word? Shot out the front. But I've never done an up and an over. And
well, you haven't missed nothing.
And I'm okay that that opportunity just never came my way.
Yeah.
And I would say that the the longest injury I ever had was probably from a stair fall, where I was fine the next day. Only had to do it 3 times. And I've done plenty of stair falls, but one in particular. And then the next day, I couldn't move, and my wife had to help me out of bed for a week and a half, put my shoes on, pop the ibuprofen, and go to work. It was a stair fall,
Hey, I got to ask. I'm just glancing through all of your credits, and my eye just kind of stopped on this Psycho Stripper. What kind of a movie is? It's a TV movie, and you were the stunt coordinator in 2019. Psycho Stripper.
Well, I think it aired on Lifetime. It was produced by Ninth House Films, Autumn Federici, and directed by Jake Helgren. And I coordinated that show because Chris Gann was out of town, his producers and production company. And it was about a woman who had a bachelor party, and And her girlfriends obviously brought a stripper to her bachelorette party, and he became psycho and thought she loved him and didn't want her to get married and wanted them to be together. And he ends up killing people to get to her. And of course, in Lifetime fashion, he dies at the end. Brian Collins doubles him and they go over a railing. And I believe he lands on an axe that was in a log because someone didn't finish splitting a log.
Okay, I can see that.
Don't you love Hollywood?
That's a creative writer saying, "Well, how about you've done a lot of kind of horror films and scary stuff, haven't you?"
Yeah, I have.
I mean,
my wheel.
I really encourage anybody to go to your Tim Mikulecky's IMDb page. For those of you who don't know what IMDb, it's Internet Movie Database, and look at these Fatal Decision and just all of these American Horror Story. You did a bunch of those.
American Horror Story. Tim Davidson gave me my first full burn.
Oh, you see, I've never done a full burn, and I did the movie Backdraft, and I have no desire, Tim, at all to do any firework.
Oh, I love fire.
Do you really? I like campfires and candlelight, but not full burns.
I love it because the guys that have taken care of me are so unbelievably awesome, and they call me. But the ignorant part of it on my part is doing live shows and not knowing how the professional Hollywood stuntmen did it. We just put on layers of sweat clothes, dumped ourselves in the water, and we put a cape on, filled with gasoline, and then we go light ourselves on fire and ride around on a jet ski in the ski show.
Did you really?
Oh yeah. And then when we got hot, we just jumped off the jet ski into the water, right?
Well, that makes sense.
So, I did, literally hundreds of those burns before coming to Hollywood and getting paid $7.20 an hour, mind you, to do that.
Wow.
And then coming to Hollywood and learning about layers and Nomex or Carbonex and fire gel and different kinds of fuel that burn brighter and burn not as hot and look good for camera and have smoke and don't have smoke and, your safety spot where you're going to go to when you start to feel heat so that the two guys can put you out with the CO2 and, and towels in ice buckets to throw on any hot spots after you call it out. Left leg. And then they throw a cold towel, a frozen, ice cold towel on your leg. And then obviously the money is fairly nice too,
Yeah.
So, I've been licked. I've had some burns. I've lost some hair and I've blistered a little here and there because I was a stunt guy. I can go longer. But then, I've learned from that and I've enjoyed them.
Well, like I said, you can have that. I got burnt on a film with Pam Anderson called Barbed Wire and had to have a skin graft done on my left finger. They had to cut the skin off, and then for a week I had to wear cadaver skin.
Right.
And then they shaved some skin off my forearm and put it. That was the most excruciating, painful thing ever, was being burned. And that's why I say you could just keep those fire gags all to yourselves.
Yeah.
I'll watch.
Well,
I'll be the guy on the sideline who watches, and after you did it, I will applaud.
Yeah, copy that. Well, yeah, if I can plug, Mark Chadwick and Jason Gray and Paul Short, which I guess I just did,
Those, and you hear their names all the time when it comes to doing the fire gags. Those are the top guys, huh?
In my opinion, I know we all have opinions, and there's plenty of people like, what are you talking about, Tim? I do this, I do that. No offense to any of you guys out there listening, but yeah, those are the guys that have been doing it for a while. Mark is a chemist in himself that has played around with the fire gel and has made his own concoctions. And, I know Jason Gray, if you ever talk to or work with Jason and he's setting up a fire burn, he keeps a log of the burns that he's done. And I don't want to be the stunt guy or the one-armed fisherman, but I feel like there's 7,500 burns on his log book or something.
Wow. That's a lot of wisdom.
Yeah. And you know, I will, I'll call him to find out so that, you know, you have the proper information. But he's like, yeah, you should keep a logbook because everyone rightfully so has a question or a concern. Well, do you know what you're doing and what does this do? And he goes, here's my logbook. You want to, you know, it's like a flight book, right? With how many hours have you flown? Can you do this? And that's pretty respectable and pretty jaw dropping when you look at that logbook, you know.
Yeah, it's because he takes it so serious, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, let me ask you something on a completely different subject. What are your feelings? Well, first of all, before we get into that, I'm sorry. Before I get into this other thing about your feelings, you are now a member of the International Stuntmen's Association.
Yes.
And I have to tell you something. I've worked with those guys, and they are some of the most talented, funniest, hardworking guys I've ever been around. And I just don't see how you fit into that group. How did they vote you? How did they ask you to come in? No, I mean, congratulations, because those guys,
thanks.
they're just, and no egos either. There's no egos in that group. And so many other of the groups that the guys are in, there's a lot of internal fighting and bitterness.
Yeah.
But those guys are just so damn cool and talented, and what a great group to belong to.
They are.
And so you've been in there for how long now?
2.5 years.
2.5 years, yeah.
At the latter end of my career, believe it or not, right?
Well, they realized how talented you are. Now we got to get Tim in here. So going back to your feelings for a second. What are your feelings about having an Oscar for stuntmen and stuntwomen and or stunt coordinators? And what's your thoughts on that?
I have two opinions. The first one is old school, and that is we chose a career where you see the back of our heads and the accolades go to the actors. You know, that's why we're doubles. You know, I mean, and we're not all doubles. We do a lot of ND stuff, and a lot of tricky stuff is done in the ND world. I mean, you're a car guy, you know. I mean, I know you're usually the number one, but you know, can be 5 to 12 to 15 other men and women in those ND spots that have to hit spots. But you know, without talking for 5 minutes about it, I'm okay without having an Oscar nomination. I'm not against having it because I know there are people that want it, and I am I care about everyone in our community, even people that I haven't met. If you're a brother or sister and you've chosen a life in this community, it's very hard, you know, and to get to a certain point of survival and then a point of earning where you can save and build a future for yourself. It's very difficult to do as a stuntman or a stuntwoman, I think. So with that, if there's someone out there that is adamant about wanting it, well, then I hope that they get that, but I don't need it. Is that fair to say?
Is that because you think that you'll never win one?
No. No.
You know, I'm kidding.
Well, no, I know, but you know, because this has bounced around a lot, and then the third part of that is Tim Mikulecky, the hypocrite, and that is for some reason, if there ever was one, and I was nominated, there's a high probability that I would show up,
yes,
even as a nominee, and that's just me looking in the mirror and calling it what it is, which I try to do in life, but I'm not ticketing for one. I'm not, darn you, SAG, or not SAG, but the Academy for not having a nomination. And I'm not crying because there's not one. Yeah. I think that, you know, you chose to be in the shadows, and so there we remain. No one's going to, just because my name is on the cast, you know, above the line, that's not making that show any more money, you know, but an actor, it's all algorithms, right? You know, if we get this guy to do this romantic comedy with this girl, and if we get them and we spend this much money, the algorithm says we're going to get that much money back.
Right.
They don't use algorithms for stunt guys. They don't go, well, if we get Corey Eubanks to coordinate, or Tim Mikulecky to coordinate and Corey Eubanks to do all the driving. It's gonna make the movie safe and awesome, but it's not gonna bring them any more extra money.
Yeah, that's the sad thing. The thing though that kind of every once in a while I scratch my head and I go, well, they say, well, we don't have any more room for any more categories.
Oh, I know.
And I said, well, maybe you could drop the best short film. It's a best short foreign animated movie. So it's the best short foreign animated movie. They have a category for that, for an Oscar. And the other thing was, I forget what year it was that the latest Mad Max movie.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was 3 or 4 years ago when it took down home all the nominations, and every clip they showed were stunt clips.
Exactly. And I felt, I felt that those stunt performers were so cheated because they're so talented and so many of them did incredible stunts. Cody Mackey. Do you know Cody Mackey?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Come on, Cody, if you're listening,
my gosh, what a great guy. He and I went to Dubai. Yeah. We went to Dubai to work for Casey O'Neill, and I got to meet him and work with him. And he started very humble, doesn't brag about himself at all. And he was telling me about some of the motorcycle jumps they did on that movie. And I was like, gosh, darn it. Those were big stunts, Tim.
Yeah, I agree.
And like you said, every clip they showed for best costume designer, there's the stunts.
Yeah.
I don't know. And also I think I'm going to rally for it a little bit because I'm at the point in my career, I'm never going to do any more big stunts that's going to be nominated for anything. And so I'm not doing it for that. I think just kind of trying to bring some attention to it to say, hey, it might not be a bad thing. It's entertainment. And why not?
I agree.
Yeah, give credit where credit is due. And get rid of the frickin' best short foreign animated film that no one's ever going to see or know about,
I think my dilemma with it is the Academy in itself. When they were picketing for an Oscar for stunts a couple of years ago, or like they do every so many years, this is what I would always say. I go, if you guys want an Oscar nomination, don't go picketing and don't go having people sign, what is it that they send around? Sign my, you get a bunch of signatures. Why can't I think of the name, for it? I go collect $500,000, walk into whoever the president or the board is of the Academy, and go buy your nomination. Cause that's what it's going to take. It's not going to be getting a bunch of stunt people together, ticketing professionally, or whatever. It's all money related. And I'm not going to call anyone out, but there was a gentleman who I love very much. So I haven't seen him in a while. He turned stuntman to director and just started directing. And I saw him in a movie where he got blown up, and I think it might have been a Batman or something. And I go, hey, blank, I saw you. And I go, it's great to see you. I go, are you doing anything? Are you coordinator? And you still get stunt work from your buddies, because he's in a group, And he goes, no, Tim, he goes, I'm making that transition. He goes, and if anyone sees me doing stunt work, then they're not looking at me as a director. And I said, that makes a lot of sense. I get that. He goes, and when my dad was in the business, he said this. He goes, and now I'm going to say it. He goes, and it really is true. And I'd rather it's bad or good, it's a statement. And the statement is, there's a stigma about keeping the stunt professionals in their place in Hollywood. However, I don't want to say keeping them down or whatever, but we're just not looked at like that. Why we're not? I've got my ideas as to why we're not. I don't think I'm going to say them, publicly, but I think that there is that they just don't look at us in that light, and they don't want us to be part of that group. So I don't think it will happen unless it's bought and paid for. And even then, it probably wouldn't happen.
It is. I'm so glad you brought that up. It's a lot of people that are outside of our industry are oblivious to the fact that stunt performers, stuntmen, stunt women, we do not get the respect on set even, or in the industry, that I feel a lot of them deserve. When you have people who have been in the business for 20, 30, 40 years, are veterans, have won awards, thank God for Dietrich and Red Bull, the Taurus World Stunt Awards.
Yeah.
But when you go on a show and they've got some kid who just got cast to play a part and he's been in the Screen Actors Guild for a month and a half, and he's going to play some little part as an acting part, as a guest star on a TV show, and he's got this big, huge trailer that they've given him and his own chair on the set with his name on it. And the stunt performers, we get stuck into the honey wagon in a little tiny dressing room, sometimes sharing it with 2 or 3 other stunt performers. And I think, I'm sorry, call it what it is. That's just disrespectful.
Yeah.
That's just
and going down the line, the behind the scenes is, how many of those actors do you think were chasing their paychecks after the movie wrapped?
True.
Right. And I was out with a bunch of stuntmen and women the other day, and some guys were, younger guys were asking me questions, and, I never like to give answers like, no, this is how it is. I like to give provoking thoughts so that they can make their own decision, and I said, how many of you have ever had to chase your pay? And they raised their hand. And I said, how many of you got your check and your stunt adjustment wasn't on your check? And they raised their hand, and I went down the line and they raised their hand. I go, see, we've all done it. When your paycheck is supposed to be in your hand 7 to 9 days after the last working day of the week, and it takes you 3 months or 6 months. It took me 13 months to get paid off of the job where I did 2 roles. I drove for a car hit. I had lines. I forgot that I didn't get paid. And then a show I was coordinating, the production coordinator saw the show, screen grabbed it, and texted to me and said, hey, I just saw you hit this guy with this car. And I said, that's funny. I still haven't been paid for that. That was 10 months ago.
Oh my God.
And she told me how to go about, because let me do this and that, blah, blah. And I filed a claim, and I ended up getting the check. But guess what wasn't on it?
Your stunt adjustment.
My stunt adjustment and my late fees.
Well, also, how many times have you signed, at the end of the day, you sign the Exhibit G and they don't even have your out time. You're just signing your name there. And they're we're going to fill in your meal penalties or your stunt adjustment. And you're like, it's not even there. And really with the Screen Actors Guild, by you signing, your signature is acceptance of whatever's on that Exhibit G. So if the call time is off, they gave you no overtime, and yet you really worked 4 hours of overtime, and meal penalties because you never broke for lunch, and they were supposed to give you a stunt adjustment, but that doesn't get put on there. You've just signed it, said, yeah, that's cool. That's good. It happens more than people know.
And if I may, as a disclosure for the anomaly of people that aren't in the industry that don't understand what we're talking about, and sounds like we're crying. The reality is that in the last year and a half or so, I feel like I've spent more time chasing money, not only for me, but for people that work for me, than I have being a professional, being a stunt coordinator. And I wouldn't say if I've worked, let's say I've worked 200 days, I haven't spent 250 days chasing money, but I've chased more money in the last year and a half of my 27 years in this business than I did in the first 25 years of the business.
Wow. That's sad.
And like Clay Cullen. Clay Cullen did a job for me. He drove a car. He slid towards an actor. Our number one jumps on the hood of the car after it comes to a stop. They have words and yell. The actor jumps off, and then Clay peels away. And I mean, everyone loved it. And that was all, it wasn't scripted. I said, just go with him, what he's going to do. And when you got a right guy in the right position, you just trust him and you don't micromanage. Right. And, the last 2 takes, the actor decides to jump on the hood, they do their stuff, and they're like, this is amazing, blah, blah, blah. Well, 3 months later, he still hadn't been paid. And so, I put the emails together and reach out to accounting, the producer. I copy our SAG rep, our business rep, so that they know I mean business, but I'm also still professional about it. Hey, the disclaimer, hey, I know everyone's been busy, but Clay, who did our most important driving and did this most safe driving with our number one, still hasn't been paid, and it's 3 months, and he's owed this daily and this much stunt adjustment and this much late fee. Well, he finally got his check, and he thanked me, and I said, you get it all? He goes, everything but the late fee. He goes, but you knew they weren't going to pay that. So, the culture it's a culture that's also been created, an unfortunate culture that's been created in Hollywood by them not, they expect us to show up on time, do our job, and as we expect them to pay us according to our contract, and they don't.
Yeah, that's so true. It's sad. It's unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. Well, let me ask you this. Because of the technology that we're dealing with now with, CGI, how much do you feel that's really affected the stunt industry?
Well, it's funny because, so I came out in 95. How long had you been doing stunts prior to 95? Like, how many years ahead of the game are you than me?
Well, I started in 81.
Oh, okay. So 14 years. So
I was trying to do the math. Okay. I couldn't, Tim. So I just threw I just said 1981.
So people, our seniors, the guys that, brought me up in the business, or, when you go and hustle and you get to hang out for an hour and a half instead of 15 minutes and they're all talking, everyone's like, I don't know why anyone's trying to be a stunt man or stunt woman now. CGI is going to take over everything. That's all I heard from 95 to 98 or maybe to 2000. And here I am.
Yeah.
And if you talk to anyone, they're working more or they're busier than they were, 5 years ago. But they're obviously that we have so much more content. Instead of ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, and movies, you now have Netflix, Hulu, HBO, SFX.
Yeah, there's a lot.
500 different outlets. It's unbelievable. And I feel like the CGI has just enhanced. If anything, it's probably made things a little bit more safe. Instead of actually doing that high fall or that car hit, we can do some green screen. We can comp some stuff. We can shoot plates. It's actually created more work because instead of a car and a guy doing a car hit, now you got 3 riggers or you got 2 riggers, a guy doing a fake car hit. You know what I mean? It's actually, in my mind, I feel like it's created more spots for people.
You know what I can't understand is why, the technology. There's a lot of people who know this in the industry. They know what a motion capture suit is.
Yeah.
And for those who don't, it's usually a gray suit and it's got these little dots that's all over it so the computer can track it so that they can turn that person into a monster or a robot or whatever they want. It's a motion capture suit. Tim, why aren't we getting an old 2001 Crown Victorian, painting it gray, putting a bunch of dots all over it, get another Crown Victorian, put a bunch of dots all over that, and you and I go do a big, tremendous crashing into each other, car chase, jumps, and do all that stuff. And then in post-production, they could go, hey, let's make that when Corey's driving, let's make that a Bugatti. Yeah.
Right.
And let's make the one that Tim's driving, make that a Bentley. Well, they could do whatever but they have not done that yet. Have you driven a motion capture car?
I have not, but doesn't
yes, Ilya Popov.
Ilya has something, and he's had it for a couple of years. I just don't know how useful it's been, right? Because he can change the wheelbase and everything.
Yeah, the width of everything. Yeah, it's incredible. I don't know why people aren't grasping onto that tool that he's created, and that it's no different than putting a person in a motion capture suit. I mentioned it one time to Michael Bay when we were working on a Transformers movie.
Yeah,
and I was telling him, I said, "Hey, Michael, Ilya Popov has invented this car," and I told him all about it. And Michael said, "I would never shoot a car chase without using real cars."
Right.
And I wanted to just say thank you, but I guess it's just a personal choice.
Well, I mean, I guess if I was going to take a wild guess, as to why and try to sound like I know everything, Mr. Eubanks. No, I would think that the dynamics of car stunts, which you know way more of than I do, but the dynamic of it and the grittiness of it is probably so much more expensive with the artist, the CGI artist, than it is to enhance a person or to enhance a fire or to enhance a gun flare that maybe it disconnects the audience. I mean, still to this day, if you catch something fake and your eye catches it, there is a moment of disconnect. And I don't think any storyteller wants to have the audience be disconnected from the story.
Right. You're right. That's a good point.
Even if it's a second or 5 seconds of disconnect. I mean, that's the reason Star Wars 1, 2, and 3 are horrible, because everyone disconnected and was looking at how horrible and ungritty the world was that they shot in. We were like, go back to Empire Strikes Back and, and New Hope and all that, because that was practical,
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think, I'm sure that they could, but, every now and then you see some of the video games that these guys play with the cars. And still, when you watch the video games, at first you're like, oh, this is cool. That was great. Oh, it's a video game. That's computer generated. And then you lose touch. So, car chases always last longer than 5 seconds. And I would hope that, the naked eye and the brain would, download and tell you, hey, this is fake. And then you're disconnected for the whole car chase sequence.
Yeah. That could,
it's a thought.
Nope, that could be it. That could definitely be it. Hey, listen, I know that it's your evening at home and you've taken this time out of your personal life to share with me. You're telling me now that we've become boring and you want to let me go. No, I want to ask you, would you be willing to do another Stunt Stories if I call you up again?
Are you kidding me? Yeah. Corey Eubanks. Corey, you interviewing me? Come on.
We have so much we could talk about that just go off. And I'm like, I feel like you can't shove it all into one little interview. So I just thought, hey, this will be, I don't even know if a lot of people know that you and I are such good friends and that, we've.
No, well, yeah, because we could do more better.
That ain't not good grammar.
That ain't not good grammar. So we need another interview so we could be more better.
You don't want everybody to think that we ain't not smart.
Ain't not smart, buddy.
I love you, Tim. Thank you so much for doing this for me. I appreciate it. And everybody listening. Go ahead. What do you say?
No, I appreciate you even wanting to interview me. I was wondering if we'd be laughing the entire time because of how we are together,
It's been very hard for me to try to be so professional talking with you.
I know, me too. I even put a collared shirt on this knowing we weren't being filmed. I'm like, I'm going to put a collared shirt on to Corey.
Okay, on the next time you're on, we'll just cut loose and say what the hell, we don't care. We'll cuss and swear and get drunk like we normally do.
See, that would be so much fun.
Yeah. Tim, thanks so much, buddy.
And I would do that. Hey, thank you. And we'll talk tomorrow maybe, huh?
All right, brother. Talk to you later.
All right, man. Love you. All right.
Love you too. And everybody, thank you for listening to Stunt Stories.